So my understanding of what we were going to do today was just for me to kind of give you guys a brain dump on what's been done so far on progress indication.
Hmm.
And if we have time, we can talk a little bit about um, what we want to see in 10.2.
Yep.
Okay.
So my understanding is that this progress thing, the idea for that is that this would go into 10.2.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
idea. I think it would probably be the main thing that's in 10.2.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, actually, before we start, you guys said that you had talked about it some yesterday.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we didn't talk about the specifics of how to get those things done. We discussed a little bit the open pull requests, and which also I want to talk about a little bit, and then um, yeah, and then what like a rough idea of what would be in 10.2, but that's something that
Okay.
obviously is good to hear from you about.
Okay. Cool. So here, let me share my screen. Um, and I apologize. I haven't looked at this code in a while. I was going to do some prep, but it turns out that vacation is distracting.
Who would have guessed?
Uh, yeah. Okay. Um, so, have you guys looked at this before? The progress indicator that's a Shiny incubator?
I have not.
Okay, cool. All right, then this won't be a waste of time. So there's actually there's two ways to use this progress indicator. Okay, well, so first of all, what is it for? I think we have an example. Tell me if it gets too noisy. There's people mowing all
I
around me, actually.
really can't hear them.
Everybody's mowing right now. Okay.
This will show up 5 times.
Yeah. They're apparently working on making that much faster. Okay,
Good.
so if I hit run here, look in the upper right, see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm.
okay. So that's what has been done so far is this progress indication sort of on uh, uh, a very kind of explicit type of progress where the user has or the Shiny app author needs to specify exactly what's happening, and if they want a percentage, they have to provide that. Okay. So you can see what that looks like here. Here's the basic usage. You say with progress, you give it a session. We
Mm-hmm.
can make this go away now with default reactive domains. But you say with progress and then some stuff. And then inside that stuff, you can say set progress. And inside of set progress, you can either give it, there's a message, which is the sort of top level thing, the bold message. And then the non-bold message is the detail. Okay. So it's like, that's the message, and then that's
Mm-hmm.
the detail. Okay. And then if you want a progress bar, then you can set a value as well. Okay. And then the with progress can take a minute at max for the progress. Okay. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So this whole thing, it uses, if I recall correctly, it uses like a similar kind of dynamic scope to reactives. So basically, this happens to have the set progress right lexically, next to with progress, but this could be inside of a function, and the function could call set progress or whatever. So that's how that works. Okay. And then these things can nest. So inside of with progress, we call another expensive operation, and that thing also calls with progress. So that's how you see these things kind of stack up on top of each other, like right here.
Oh, yep. Yep.
So that can happen arbitrarily deeply. Okay.
It's
Okay.
hard to tell. Was it like just layered right on top of the other one? Like, um,
It was offset by like 10 pixels to the left and 10 pixels down.
oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And the
Oh,
visuals aren't by
Right, but
final.
but the top level one doesn't have the bar. That's right. Okay. That makes
Right,
sense.
right. Okay, so this is one API for using this progress, the function-based API. So you call with progress and set progress. So that's one way to use it. Another way is you can. There's a ref class. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make this progress, and it takes the same arguments as with progress, session min and max. And then on this reference class or reference object, you can call set instead of set progress, and then close when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if I have an example of this. Oh, this is an example. Duh. Okay. So you can see I make the progress object here, and then I just call progress set and progress close on it. So
Yeah.
that I'm not totally sure anymore why you would want this. But every other API that I've ever made for progress looked like this, so I made it like this. But I guess it's definitely more R-like, right, to use this functional API that uses
Yeah.
like progress and set progress.
Wait, can you I just want to take a look at the code for the other one. Can you just paste the link in?
Oh, for the example or for the?
Yeah, for the example. Oh, I see what it is. Okay.
I'll send this too. Okay. The reference class based one is strictly more powerful because you could have interleaved progress happening. Although the way the UI is presented, I don't know that makes sense anyway. Maybe if those things showed next to each other, like above and below each other, like OS 10 notifications do, then you could have like tasks that are proceeding independently. Yuhui, are you still with us?
Yep.
Okay. Your picture was frozen. Kind of a weird smile. Okay. So if you use the progress object, you can make it very explicit which progress operation you're sending a message or detail or value on. Whereas when you use with progress and set progress, there can only ever be one progress operation that's at the top of the stack, right? So it's not as powerful, but it's 99% of the time, that's maybe even 100% of the time, that's what you want with a
When would
nicer.
you be switching, or when would you be able to do multiple things?
It doesn't make a lot of sense today. It would mostly make sense, I think, if you could be doing asynchronous operations.
Yeah.
Which right now are not easy to do within Shiny anyway. Well, I mean, you could do them, but we don't have a lot of scenarios where that's, being done. But I think once we've talked about having, an HTTP client that's async, so you could do more web service type gets. And in that case, I think then it would be more useful. We don't have to optimize for that now if it's barely possible. So we don't need to.
Well, it might be nice to at least. I mean, is this with progress thing? Is it even capable of being extended to handle that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think what you could probably do is have set progress take an optional argument that defaults to the current with progress. And then you could also have with progress return a value that you could save if you want to. It's not super intuitive, but could be doable.
Okay.
But I think even if we say that there's two interfaces, I think that would be okay. 90% of the time you use this. If you really run into trouble, here's this lower level abstraction you can use.
Right. If and when we get to make Shiny, so it can do those sorts of things, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I present this not to say that this is what definitely should ship as part of Shiny 10.2. But just to say, this is what I needed, so I built it and put it in Incubator. So there are a couple of other ways that people could think about progress indication that might be complementary or might be used in place of this. So I think one is you could have global progress indication that just indicates Shiny is busy or Shiny is not busy, right? Like the web browser spinning to indicate that the page is loading. I actually think that that's a more common request than this kind of very explicit, fine-grained progress.
Yeah.
Especially because right now, as the page loads, empty plots are just blank instead of having any indication at all. So last release for 10.0, I was trying to work on some stuff to make the per output progress indication look nice.
Oh yeah.
So not just have them fade. Yeah, not just have them fade. Have a gray background and then a little spinner. And I just don't like the way visually that looked. And maybe a way we can kind of get out of having to come up with a nice treatment for that is to just have a nice global spinner that is even enabled by default.
What did you not like about having the little spinner?
It was more the gray background actually than the spinner.
Oh really?
Oh, actually, well, we could just say. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it just looked. I don't know, like someone hadn't tried very hard, which is true. I hadn't tried very hard. So I don't know. It's a little hard for me to imagine something that is that visually prominent, and yet it not having a strong opinion about what the page should look like. Meaning
What
like
about,
okay,
oh,
just
no,
a,
go
just a,
ahead.
just a gray box is really kind of bland. But if we were to put a gradient or something on there, or any kind of more forceful treatment, I think it might look better. But it would also look very conspicuously like something very, very opinionated, and then every Shiny app would kind of. I'd like to move gradually away from every Shiny app looking the same, and I felt like that was a very strong step in the opposite direction, where everything would start to look very, very similar. So anyway, regardless, I think it is potentially really useful to just have the global spinner in the corner, and that might also be both easy to implement and easy to make look nice. Although I think we'd certainly want to make sure that while the default behavior is nice and looks decent, that we make it very easy for people to override both the behavior and the placement and the spinner itself. All that stuff should be, or if it's even a spinner, whatever it is, should be easily replaced.
I was actually thinking of something slightly different for that. Okay.
What you have in mind?
I was thinking because I think just the feeling like when you see a spinner is like, okay, I'm sitting here waiting. But like if you just have like one, those things like a bar at the top that's like maybe like 3 or 4 pixels high that's sort of just moving.
Yep.
That might be a little bit more subtle, but also indicate that it's waiting. So I mean, just in terms of what it feels like to the user, it might feel a little bit nicer.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yep.
Do you? Okay. That's just sort of my intuition. I don't know if there's if that's a thing, that people do.
No, it totally is. I mean, Chrome does that, right, on Android. That's the loading bar.
Oh, is it? Maybe that's okay.
Huh. And we've used something like that for the Shiny React log. And actually, I prototyped that exact blue 4-pixel.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I had forgotten until you just said that.
Well, actually, and another nice thing about that, looking at this thing on my phone, is that you could have it just be like a bar that's moving, or one that shows percentage, and that.
Yep.
Which is not something you can do with a spinner. Maybe you could, but it wouldn't work that well.
Yeah. It'd be pie chart style, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that I think Oh, it's funny. I was going to say, you can work with Greg on that. He's actually going to be here on vacation with us.
Oh, really? Cool.
So maybe don't bother Greg this week.
Oh, where are you at now? I forgot.
We're at Cannon Beach on the Oregon coast.
Okay. And are you actually on
Um,
vacation, or is it a workcation?
yeah, I mean it's 9 days. So Amy didn't even ask if I could take 9 days off. She just figured I'd have to at least be working part of the time. So
Yeah.
I figured I'd pretty much work as the feeling struck me, which strikes me a lot lately, unfortunately.
Oh.
Um, yeah. Okay. So okay, but whatever. Regard work to do before there's work on the we can do other stuff before doing the visuals anyway, right? There's um, actually implementing it and making it
Yeah.
a nice API for extending and replacing whatever. What's his name? I think it's ZJ. Is it Shiny Sky? Is that the name of his repo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He has a spinner. Yeah, Shiny Sky. So here. It looks like it's called. Where is it? Busy Indicator.
Busy indicator. Yeah.
Yeah. That I think he's just polling. Like every 100 milliseconds, he looks to see if the HTML element has the busy indicator on it.
Oh, yeah.
I can't find a demo.
So when that will display, after 1 second, it'll start to show that.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Okay. So maybe that's some prior art to look at as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the second. So first is this very user-driven set progress, and then the second is this global indication with no intervention necessary from the user.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Let me just note that for the first one, the one in Shiny Incubator, right now it requires you to put progress init in the Shiny UI. And that's garbage, obviously. Like that's like the number one source of problems for people not being able to get it to work. Here, let me. So in this progress.r file,
Yeah.
there is this first thing. There is progress init, and it adds the progress and it loads the JS. So that we would obviously build in.
Right. So, I'm wondering, could we do something like? All right, let me stop. Think for a sec. Do we always want it so that it displays this thing that like it's doing this now, and with the text like I'm thinking, I'm adding 1, 2, 3, now I'm done, or what do you think about just putting the progress bar that just goes like this Android progress bar that just goes across the top by default, and then
yeah, you sure could.
That wouldn't work so well for like nested progress.
Oh, if it's not telling you why it's nesting?
Well, I don't know where you'd put like the second bar.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, just for completeness, I don't think we should necessarily do this, but in the past, I've worked on like desktop Windows software where the expectation's a lot higher about progress being accurate.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know that the expectation's higher. Maybe people would expect progress to be accurate in Shiny as well, but anyway, well, I guess where professional software developers are writing the code and they're very incented to make the progress indication accurate. You could basically nest these things, and when you nest them, they compose to form a full 100% progress bar.
Oh, I see. Okay? Yeah.
So you could say, I'm about to do a download. The download is between 0 and 10% of this operation, and then the download just goes between 0 and 100% of its operation, and the top level operation knows to translate that 0 to 100 to 0 to 10.
So then all of them would need the same sort of like a percentage progress as
They would
opposed.
all. That's right. Or for indeterminate states, you could either say, okay, so for the let's say the progress, the step that you're doing actually just goes from 0 to 100. You have no opportunity to know.
Mhm.
Then you could say, okay, that's between 0 and 10%, so it's going to jump from 0 to 10%. And then other places, maybe it'll be
Mhm.
smoother. Or you could say, so that's pretty common. You see that all the time, right?
Yeah,
Progress
yeah.
bars that go very from 0 to 80 and then jump to the end.
Okay. But so the
And then
top
if you
level one
really,
would have to be percentage then, and like you
yeah,
couldn't have the
yeah,
top level one be indeterminate, and then
right, right,
you know,
yeah. Not without a pretty complicated UI that
yeah,
could spawn subtasks.
yeah.
That'd be pretty technical. And then if you really want to get fancy, then some of these things they'll basically let you take a guess. Like it'll basically fake, even though it's indeterminate. It'll, let's say, asymptotically approach 10%, right?
Mhm.
Which is kind of cheesy. Like it's obviously not giving you any more information. It's just psychologically trying to make you feel like
Oh yeah.
it's something, right? So,
Yeah, it's funny.
um, so yeah,
Okay.
I definitely noticed Chrome doing that on my
Oh
phone.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Interesting.
Wi-Fi here, we were having trouble getting it hooked up, and DNS queries weren't being responded to, and you'd see it like, "Blue," and then it would slow down, and it
Yeah.
would back
Nice.
up. It's like, I know you don't know. Come on, you don't know how long this DNS is going to take to
Mhm.
respond. Anyway,
Okay.
so there's
So
that.
okay. So how about this for? I'm still thinking about the. Well, if we want to talk about the visuals, I have. I'm thinking like, so for indeterminate, it'll just be this moving thing across the top, right? With, I don't know, like a alternating color band bar that just sort of moves. Um,
Mhm.
and then if people and if people are using that as the top level, and if their sub levels have percentages, that's just too bad. Those percentages don't show up.
Yeah,
It seems simple and reasonable. And then
yeah,
if the top level does have percentages, then we can do it like the way that you're just describing.
yeah, yeah. I'd
Okay.
say it's worth prototyping this stuff out because it certainly could be that um, the more I think about it, this a lot of Shiny apps are written for a specific person. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're oh wait, hold on. Let's take one step back. Let's say the top level is not indeterminate. Are you
Mm-hmm.
saying that we want to do this sort of stacking, not stacking, but nesting behavior where basically the subtasks form a percentage of the overall task?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
That seems
So the thing that
reasonable.
I would
Yeah.
the thing that I would worry about that is, so we did this on Folio, we did it in Windows Live Writer, and those are totally synchronous functions that are, the logic that you're calling in those cases were totally synchronous. Like you'd say starting an operation, and then it would take some time, and then you'd say, whatever, it's done. Uh, the fact that this is all happening within reactives, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
like you're gonna have a reactive that may take zero time because it's cached, or it may take, a really long
Mm.
time because
Oh
it's
yeah.
not. So I was thinking, first of all, that it's easier for people to throw in a progress message. You always know, like when you're inserting set progress
Mm-hmm.
call, you always know what the message would be. It might be harder to have a good idea of what percentage, it is,
Mm.
and that can be a burden to put on the user. But then to have to nest those and come up with accurate calculations, that's hard even in the synchronous case that we used to do in
Yeah.
Windows. And when you get it wrong, then you have things like 130% complete. Pretty
Oh
embarrassing.
yeah.
Um, so I think I know where you're coming from. Where the idea of these stacking blue bars might seem kind of silly, right? Like you've got
Mm-hmm.
this like a blue thing going across, and then when it's halfway, another blue one, faster one appears below it. And I agree. Like I've never seen anything like that, but I wonder if for this audience that they actually might be grateful for that. especially if, oh, what if this? What if there's text, then the blue bar is taller and the text appears in the blue bar, you know? Then it might make a lot of sense. Like if those labels are meaningful to someone, like a top level says, you know, recalculating, and then the second one says processing row, you know, 30 of for the subtask, you know, that might actually be appreciated. You know, I'm just saying if we could find a visual treatment that isn't awful, that might be a useful interaction model for the user.
Okay.
Okay, let me just say one last thing. So we've got very manual. We've got this global progress with no effort. And then I wonder if like a middle ground might be if you give individual reactives labels, and then they automatically, as they're executing, if they take more than 15 seconds, they say, "Here's what's executing." You know?
So that'd be just automatically
reactive.
handled.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So reactive might take a progress label or something like that, and that just means if progress label is not null and it takes more than a second, then it's as if you called with progress set progress on it.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then one more sort of orthogonal thing to throw on here, which is that in the past, when we've done any kind of progress indication type stuff, we've made sure that if an operation is going to complete very quickly, that we don't just flash the progress up and down. That we want to make sure that as much as possible, progress appears for things that actually take some time, but they don't appear for things that don't take a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
So I think with the opacity fade out, on that we have today for plots or whatever outputs that are in progress, that takes like a second or a second and a half, and then they start fading, and they take another 500 milliseconds or something to fade. So I think we should plan to do that as well, especially for kind of automatic type progress that we don't instantly show it, but give it a second. I think Winston, you and I talked about this before, and you were starting to get really interested in kind of dynamically figuring out how long things were taking, so that if the threshold was a second and then the operation took a second and 1.1 seconds, that we wouldn't even show in that case. But
was I talking about that?
Yeah. You were getting pretty. I think I had to talk you down a little bit. You were getting pretty excited about pretty complicated dynamic programming stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay if someday we want to do that. But I think as part of our V1 version of this progress, we do want to. That's the kind of thing that JJ in particular gets really hung up on, and I think it's a good thing that he has definitely kept me honest in the past on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we should try to stick to that.
Okay. And
okay.
Try to use Bootstrap stuff if possible.
Yeah, I think so. So I'd like to see us make it look good in Bootstrap by default, but also have it look good, have it easy to, if somebody wants to do something custom, like those McKinsey guys or whatever.
Yeah.
Make sure it's very easily. That we've been thoughtful about what it'd be like for a CSS override to kind of take complete control. So, and then also, like Hadley had talked about, for any of these cases, like, do you want to let the user specify where the progress goes, rather than just have it appear at the top? If we're doing the blue band, then no, I think, right? But but if the user, or I don't know, like maybe the user has a way to kind of catch progress and say, for this particular kind of progress, I want it to be, I want to completely handle it in JavaScript, or I want to handle it using this widget that I'm dropping into my document. I want the progress to appear right next to this output or whatever. So we don't necessarily have to do all that right now. I just think we should think about it.
So really, you're thinking about like letting them register functions or the JavaScript functions or something that will.
Yeah. I mean, maybe just shiny.onProgress or something like that, and that progress can have a key. So you can say with progress, and then give it a specific like progress ID, and then anything in the UI that wants to handle that particular kind of progress can handle it. So I don't know. I'm just
okay.
I think that's sufficiently advanced that I don't necessarily. I'm not saying that that's the answer, but I think we should at least know what would be possible, like what direction we could go in from there.
Sure.
Even if today we just said we implement ours using this JavaScript API that's also exposed to everybody else, and if Ramnath, if ZJ want to write components that hook those events and replace our handling, then great, they can go ahead and do that. Like a e.prevent default, basically, and say, okay, then the shiny one, the built-in one, won't show up. They're going to handle it themselves or whatever.
Makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so that's basically all that I have in my head about this. But the main things I want to keep in mind. So number one, to make it look, make them look good, at least as good as the rest of Shiny looks, right? And number two, for it to be, skinnable / extensible if people want, and it doesn't have to be easy; it just needs to be possible. And then number three, probably the most important thing is that the API, that we're really thoughtful about how people will use this API within their server.r files, and that it be something that is easy and convenient for them to do. It's always the last thing you want to do is like go spend a bunch of time figuring out how to make nice progress. So we want to make the cost of learning it and using it so low that it's a no-brainer to just say, oh yeah, like I'm totally going to adjust your with progress or whatever.
Okay.
You know what? If there's a common case of with progress being something that you throw around an entire reactive or observer, like I could see that being a common case is you say observe and then with progress. Maybe this is a stupid idea, but we could make those like implicit. I'm just thinking the main thing of with progress, the purpose of it is to let you close, right? You want to close the progress indicator when it's done, when the task is done. So you need an enclosing scope, but those reactives and observers already have a context that's their reactive context, which right now we don't have an event for when those contexts complete, but we certainly could. Okay, it doesn't matter. That doesn't need to be the first thing we do. We've already talked about 3 different possibilities for complementary or substitutes for each other, whatever. We could start with that. Okay, so I've done a lot of talking. Do you guys have any, when you were thinking about progress indication being in Shiny, was there anything that I've missed or that you were thinking that was different from what I've laid out?
I don't know. I've said the stuff that I thought. From our programming side of things, I don't have any particularly strong opinions about how it should be done.
Okay. Yuhei?
No, nothing on my mind either.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so is that all clear? Do I need to write up any of this in an email or anything? Or I'm happy to, if that would be helpful.
I'm okay with this. And maybe I don't know. We could write up something based on this conversation. Just sort of, yeah. I mean, we could do that as we're thinking about how to make this all work.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and let me when I'll see Greg today. He arrives today. I'll talk to him about what his availability is for this week.
Okay. Are you guys vacationing together, or is it just you?
Yeah, we are. Our families are pretty close.
Okay.
It was just coincidentally. We could use his service as well. Well, he'll be here. We came out a day earlier than they have, so they're not here.
Mm-hmm.
But I know he was planning on doing some work. So if he's up for it, I don't know. Maybe we could, the four of us could have another hangout later, and then we could, he could do some mock-ups or something for us. So.
Okay.
I don't know. It seems like it should be such a simple thing. It really seems like throw a blue bar at the top, have it be thin, overlay some text. But man, I tried it and it looked like garbage. It really, I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's like 1 pixel of a slightly different blue color, along the top, and then a different one, a darker one along the bottom, and it's like a world of difference,
Really
But
interesting.
I don't have that right now. I don't have that ability.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, the Chrome one has the Chrome one on Android has a nice kind of like a leading indicator, has a glowing.
Yeah, and it's a little bit larger.
Yeah, that's might be a little bit over the top, but it might also be really, nice. So.
Yeah, but it's also nice. I mean, they get to control it, so they can actually draw it. Like we have to reserve space on the web page for it, and they can just put it it's like half on the web page and half up into the title bar area. So
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Okay, cool. While I'm here, anything else we should?
Actually, maybe we should run some. I had some thoughts about one of the pull requests that UA has open. It's the
Unicode one?
What's that?
Unicode?
No, not that one. The other one. I don't know enough about the Unicode stuff.
Nobody ever has thoughts on Unicode stuff.
I mean, I just Yue and I we discussed a little bit about just auto detecting if has extended characters that aren't UTF-8, and then because if that's the case, then it's just the app's just not going to work right. If there are extended characters, they have to be it has to be encoded as UTF-8.
Yep.
So if we can detect cases where it's not encoded that way, then print out some sort of message or warning or something like that.
Yep. And I think there might be an easy way to do that with IconV. I might be wrong, but it seems like there should be a built-in way in R to see if it's UTF-8 encoded, or at least if it looks like a valid UTF-8 byte stream.
Yeah.
And if not, we can do it in C.
Okay, and it's pretty straightforward to check for that, right? Because there's certain patterns that are required for UTF-8.
It's very straightforward to check for it in C.
Okay.
I don't know how easy it is to or really how performant it'd be to do the kind of bit manipulations you need to in R. Because it's very stateful, you have to do them one at a time. You can't vectorize it.
Oh yeah, right. Because it's iterative.
Or actually, I don't know. Maybe you could be clever and do it in 2 passes. If you're gonna do some code in C to check, you may as well just do the whole thing in C. Yeah, it's really easy to do it in C. It's a little bit more, I imagine, more complicated in R.
You can just leave that to me. I know how to do it.
Oh, you do?
R.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Excellent. Okay, cool. Is it simple?
Yeah, very simple.
Oh, perfect. That's great. All right.
Did you say that there was a different thing that you had?
Yeah. I'm looking at the opt group pull request.
Oh yeah.
So one thing that this made me think, I was looking at this, and we have a lot of code that's supposed to handle, because the choices can be a character vector, a named character vector, or it can be a list. And now with the opt group, so before that wasn't that complicated to handle both of those cases, But now that the opt group can take these nested lists, or a list with that has some character vectors in it for the nesting, it looks like there's a lot of special casing code to sort of handle those. Like it's checking, is this a list or is it a character vector with length greater than 1, and if so, then there's those cases, and then there's some implicit coercion using like sapply for character vectors to lists, and so I'm just finding that a little bit hard to follow. So I'm thinking that maybe we should just like early on in this path just convert everything to a list, to nested lists, and then handle it from there. And I ran some speed tests on that sort of thing, and it's pretty fast to do that conversion. So that for me that reduces the cognitive load of understanding how these things work.
Yeah. What do you think, Yue?
I think that's probably a good idea. I mean, so you mean the choices is we only allow the choices to be a list internally?
Internally, yeah. So they can pass in a named, and then we just do as list on it, and then recursively in case it's nested.
So you basically are saying like a normalize options function, right?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it can still be whatever is valid today as input, but whatever comes out is predictably, maybe there's even always an opt group. It just may be only one and has no name, or
I didn't even think about that's
okay. Whatever it is.
Tough, but okay. Cool.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so then I'll comment a bit more on this pull request then.
Okay. Okay, and then I think I've talked to both of you individually about this. So are you guys going to be meeting, doing daily catch-ups together?
Yeah, we could do that. Okay. We actually didn't discuss that yet, but that's fine with me.
Okay, cool.
If that's if that's good with you.
Okay, does that sound good, Yuhei?
Yeah.
Okay. So other than this week, which is a little weird because I'm on vacation, I expect we'll still be, catching up once or twice a week anyway, just to talk about where things are going. But so hopefully this progress indication, and then Winston, you have your ggviz stuff as well. This sounds like plenty for a few days' work, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to hit stop broadcast, and then we can talk about the trauma board a little bit.